Once there was a dog called Balto who lived in Alaska. Balto's story is told in a new animated film, his adventures and friendship with a goose called Boris and a dog called Jenna. But how is an animated film put together? How do the pictures that we watch on the screen start their lives? How does the blank piece of paper get filled with the characters and adventures which thrill us at the cinema?
The movie is based upon true events of 1925 when Nome, Alaska was gripped by an epidemic of diphtheria. And at the time it was the middle of winter, so the only way to get the medicine through to the town was to use teams of husky dogs to transport them overland.
Cannot send more antitoxin. Stop. Weather too severe. Stop. Lost sled team, only hope. Stop. Our prayers are with them.
An animated film is an enormously large number of drawings shown one after another in very quick succession. When you're at school, you quite often build like flip books where you draw on the corner of your book and each page you draw another different drawing, and then when you flip them through you can see a little movement happening. Now normally you'd make a flip book of maybe 20 or 30 pages. In animation there are 1,440 frames to every minute of film. There's 70 minutes of film in an animated feature. Each one of those frames has a different drawing on it. It's a very, very thick flip book. An animation director is involved in every part of the process, from designing the characters and developing the script and the storyboard, right the way through every stage of a process. When we have the whole film together visually, I will work with the sound people who will go in and make all the sound effects, all the footfalls, all the noises, and the people who are writing the music, and finally put the whole film together in what we call a dubbing session, where we take all these elements and mix them together.
The set of an animated film looks very different from a normal film set. In fact, it looks more like an office. The director sits in the center, being able to supervise and advise all of the people who are working on the film.
Every frame of the animation has to be drawn, and it's not just drawn by one artist. Several artists work on every single frame. So, for instance, there has to be a layout artist, there has to be the animator, there has to be the animator's key assistants, and then his assistants and in-betweeners. There have to be the artists who colour the thing, there have to be the artists who paint the backgrounds. There are a number of technicians who put these elements together. We have a crew of 250 people working on this movie for something around 2 to 3 years. The average animator produces about 3 seconds of animation, 3.5 seconds of animation a week. If you put that on film, that's about this much film in 1 week. An animator will probably work for a year to a year and a half on the film, so he'll produce maybe 60, 70 times this much.
Every film starts with a script, words written down which have to be brought to life by the animators and designers.
And then I go through and I produce little sketches like postage stamps that are very, very rough, which show all the action, what the camera is going to be looking at. And then after that we draw these up a little bit more carefully to create very readable and understandable drawings. We will shoot those drawings on film and cut them together one after another with the correct timings for how long that shot is going to last, how long that character is going to be in that position. Basically a very simple form of the animation.
Hi.
Hi. Jenna?
Rosie's in there.
In the hospital, why?
She feels warm. She has a terrible cough. Balto, what's wrong with her?
Huh. I'm not sure, but I know how to find out. Come on.
Every single different shot has to be drawn out. You can't use any way of looking at that in a different way because it's simply a flat drawing. So we have layout artists whose sole job is to draw what the camera sees, so that the background painters can work from it and create their background paintings, and also so that the animator can know where his characters are supposed to go in space and how it's going to hook up with the other shots around. When we start off designing an animated feature, we have to think in great detail about not only the colours that are used, but also the style with which things are drawn. Obviously, we're working in what is meant to be a real location. We're working in Alaska, so we got a great deal of reference on what Alaska looks like. Then the art director or production designer spends quite a while working out how that's going to be represented, what style we're going to use to represent those elements, and what it is we're trying to say with the backgrounds. Are we trying to say this is bright and sunlit, or is this cold and unpleasant, or is this mysterious and strange? In one point in the movie we go into an ice cavern, which we didn't actually have any direct reference for. There are a few shots from inside caverns, from potholing and things like that, but I don't know if anybody's ever found a 400-foot wide ice cavern. So there we actually went into a certain degree of license, a certain degree of sort of imagining how this would look, and also made the styling of these big icicles that fall down and so on slightly, shall we say, creative, to give the feel of this mysterious and strange place.
We took a decision fairly early on to actually use oil paint for the majority of the backgrounds for the film. The main reason for that was because so many scenes were set in the outdoors where the backgrounds would be covered in snow. In order to give that soft effect that snow had, we needed a medium that would allow us to soften the edges of things, to give a rather subtle effect. Normally, we would use a machine called an airbrush to do this, which is a kind of aerosol effect, but it gives a rather mechanical effect.
When we started the film, the biggest problem what we all had was that we never animated a character that was based on a real live animal. We had to get a lot of reference in, so at one point we had seven husky dogs walking around in the studio, which we were all drawing and filming, and we got all this reference in live drawing. If you have a character with two legs, you just put one leg in front of the other and it will walk, but of course a dog has another two, and to make them work together so that it looks like it's actually walking like a dog is something that you really have to study it.
When we're creating characters for animation, it starts in a number of different ways. You have the script, so you know approximately what the character is going to be like from the script. Very often it will develop as you go through the storyboard process, to getting a better and better idea of what the character should be. We will do visual development on a character, designing ways that we think the character could look, and we'll also at the same time be thinking about voices that we could cast for that character. When we actually decided we were going to use Bob Hoskins for the voice of Boris, we could then go in and alter the Boris character design to really suit the voice.
I'm in charge of one of the characters in the film. His name is Boris, and he's the closest friend of the hero, Balto the dog.
He's a kind of a grumpy character. He's never in a good mood.
He's a nice guy.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
When we started the film, I was asked to do the female lead character, let's say. She's Balto's girlfriend in the film. The character of Jenna was supposed to be a very classy dog. When you start animating, it's always good if you have some kind of reference, what you can base the character on. It just makes it easier. And I've been looking through a lot of photographs to kind of have an idea for expressions, and then I stumbled on some pictures of Audrey Hepburn, who had these beautiful eyebrows, and the eyes just really, you know, stick out as a very main feature.
Anna?
Now, those small sheets are taken from animated scenes. It's just roughs showing different attitudes. So this is from different scenes. One scene is sticking back the feathers. Scenes is running, is walking, is doing different things. And those ones are attitude expressions. Just the face showing different expressions.
You sit, you arrange refreshments. Do you like potato chip?
But how does the animator make the character come to life?
If I want to make a movement, the first drawing number one, put another piece of paper and flip the drawing, and then, okay, let's say he's looking down like this. And then if I want to have him, this is a very bad drawing, sorry. If I want to have him looking up, then I'm just doing this. And then by doing this, I'm just, you can see a bit of a movement, you know, with two poses. That's it.
The problem, of course, is to make the character like that consistent in the whole movie, that you know from the beginning it's still going to look the same as in the end. And you can't possibly draw it all yourself, so you have a team of about 15 other animators.
We have a process which is called cleanup, where the animation from maybe half a dozen different animators goes through a person called a character lead, who is an assistant who controls the styling of that character.
Well, we work with model sheets for each character, and we construct using like basic shapes of balls and squares, and just build up the character from that, and then it goes on to in-betweeners. As you work on a character, you get to know exactly like where the eyes should be, how large the eyes
how
should
to
be,
construct it,
and the various proportions of the character.
When all of the drawings have been completed in black and white, they are then filmed. This is so that the director can see whether the film works in the way that it tells the story. This is called a line test.
So go make move. When the angels balalaika strum the sweet song of love. Mambo!
She's not my type.
And why not? This wolf business again. And what's wrong with being half and half, I'd like to know. Sometimes I wish like crazy I was half eagle. Why? Better profile for one thing. And no one needs you for another. Jenna? Jenna.
Balto. Hi.
Hi. Jenna?
Rosie's in there.
In the hospital, why?
She feels warm. She has a terrible cough. Balto, what's wrong with her?
I'm not sure, but I know how to find out. Come on.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with S.
In a film such as Balto, you need snow, and lots of it. Snow falling, snowstorms, blizzards. Each individual snowflake is created in a 3D environment on a computer. And then, when the animator feels that the snow looks just right, the effect is laid over the sequence in order to see what it looks like. If the animator is happy with the snow, then it will eventually be filmed on the finished sequence.
After cleanup, the drawings are taken down and scanned into computers. These are done under a number of different systems. We have scanners that are rather like Xerox machines where you lay the drawing face down and they scan them. We have other scanners which are like cameras looking down onto a flat piece of artwork. These then become digital files inside the computer.
The primary reason for bringing it into the computer and taking it from a drawing, scanning it into the computer and using it there is just much more flexibility. All the information for the scene, what drawings to be used, in what order, and any element is entered on an exposure sheet, or we call it a dope sheet for slang. And we have a paper version of it, the exposure sheet that the traditional animators work from, and we have a digital version that we actually sit down and type it into the computer. The columns depict levels. In this scene, it's basically comprised of a background and this one character, Boris, and some snow. And you guys have already been upstairs and seen the animated snow. Now, at this point, another element comes into the scene, and it would actually be leveled on top of Boris. As you can see, it's covering him up, so basically that's in front of him. The snowball comes and hits him in the face. Then there's an animated level of feathers throughout the scene that fly off. Now, at this point, Boris falls in this hole, and his feathers are going in the hole. Now, in order to do this in animation, we use what's called a mat. And basically, it's a drawing that outlines the background and basically tells the computer not to let the feathers go in front of that area of background. So it looks like they're falling behind it when we do the final composite.
Oh, yes! Ooh. Brilliant, right on the beak. What a bullseye!
That did it. Who did that?
It was him.
When each drawing is completed and approved, it then has to be coloured in, ready for the final stage of filming. Once, every drawing would be coloured in by hand, but now computers are used to speed up the process. Each block of colour is filled in using a palette of colour which has been specially created for the character. You can see the colour palette at the top of the computer screen. The lines of each drawing have to be perfect so that the colour doesn't spill out into another area. The computer operator also has to make sure that there are no tiny patches of the drawing left blank. Remember, every drawing, every frame, and every part of a scene has to be coloured in. That's a lot of colouring.
At the final stage in the digital scene design, we composite all the elements, and we are the last people to look at it actually before it goes out to film.
When the digital elements are composited together, They're then transferred onto film using a machine called the solitaire, which literally shoots the digital information onto 35mm, frame by frame. And then that is run through a projector, each individual frame.
Jenna.
Is love. So go make move. When the angels balalaika strum the sweet song of love. Mambo!
Nah, she's not my type.
And why not? This wolf business again. And what's wrong with being half and half, I'd like to know. Sometimes I wish like crazy I was half eagle.
Why?
Better profile for one thing. And no one needs you for another.
Jenna? Jenna.
Balto. Oh, hi.
Hi. Jenna?
Rosie's in there.
In the hospital, why?
She feels warm. She has a terrible cough. Balto, what's wrong with her?
I'm not sure, but I know how to find out. Come on.
So, this film based on a true story which took place in 1925 has now been completed. In the 3 years which it has taken to make, the words of the script have been turned into thousands of drawings, brought to life by hours and hours of careful work, filmed, coloured in, and finally joined together. The hope of every animator is that as you watch the film, you will forget that you are simply watching thousands of individual drawings, that all you will see on the screen are the adventures of Balto and his friends Boris and Jenna.
Not so foul! Where's the referee? He's blind!
I hit my head on something.
Yeah, my head.
Is anyone hurt?
Everyone is fine.
Keep trying, baby. Come on, Balto. That's it.
Good luck, kiddo.